All right. Good morning. Happy Friday the 13th. Welcome to SKC Office Hours. We are here today to talk about all things crypto. But before we do that, just a couple housekeeping items. My name is Sarah Krom. I'm managing partner of SKC & Co. CPAs. Also on the call today as my sidekick is Karen Donaway. She is our marketing director. She's going to be fielding some questions that you guys might put in through the chat. And she's also going to try her talent at putting some surveys out there today. So we'll see how that goes. So office hours is being recorded, so please be aware of that if you don't want to share your video. It's also going to be available on our website later in the week, next week, and feel free to revisit it. Feel free to share it with any of your colleagues who weren't able to join today because it is August and lots of people are on holiday. So we'll have it up there on our website for you to refer back to, and Karen will send a follow-up email with a link to that. So as I said, we are going to do surveys throughout the hour to kind of get your pulse on a few things, but we are also encouraging this to be as interactive as possible so you can get the most benefit out of it. So please feel free to post your questions in the chat. And like I said, Karen will field them throughout the presentation and interrupt us as necessary. So we are here today to talk about cryptocurrency, but specifically more about what you need to know as a business owner regarding crypto. So we're not necessarily going to touch or focus heavily on the volatility of investing in crypto or the strategies around that, but we are going to talk about how to use it in business. So today we have Dr. Stein Smith with us, who is here to educate us on all things crypto. Admittedly, this is still a tad over my head, so he's going to help us work through all of this as best he can. But I'm going to turn it over to Dr. Sean right now to do a brief introduction of himself. So Sean, thank you so much for being here with us today.
Absolutely, and I'm always amped to be here, always amped to answer questions about crypto for business, enterprise, and to try to sort of move the whole conversation out of just talking on the price of Bitcoin. So, Stein Smith. I'm on the faculty at Lehman College, which is about 2 blocks from Fordham's main campus in the Bronx. Outside of that, I do a ton of work in the blockchain crypto space. I'm on the boards now of 2 policy firms and then 1 actual firm operating in the actual crypto asset space. I do a lot of corporate trainings, researching, writing on blockchain crypto, and I do have a column that comes out every week at Forbes talking about crypto from a policy angle and also from an angle that's trying to help firms basically understand how to use blockchain and crypto in a proactive manner going forward. So, and also I'm always happy to answer questions because on a topic like this, answering questions, having that back and forth is the best way to try to understand what is a abstract area really for honestly most of these topics.
Great. Thank you so much, Sean. It's great to have you here. And like I said to the audience, you are a wealth of information, and we're going to mine as much as we can out of you today. In the
mining, all right, mining about crypto. Okay.
You like that? You like how I did that?
I like it.
We're going to open with a survey question. Hopefully, Ms. Karen, if you could pop that up on the screen for us, just to get an idea from the audience of what brought you here today for office hours. And there it is. Well done, Karen. So did you join us today because you're obsessed with all things crypto, because you've read headlines and you feel you should know more about it, because you know absolutely nothing and you don't want to be left behind, or some other reason altogether? I'm somewhere between number 2 and number 3 about why I joined today. So, Karen, do you want to share the results and we can kind of there we go. The whole audience is kind of, Sean, you obviously didn't answer because I would think you would have picked number 1 and nobody picked number 1, but
absolutely.
That's okay.
That's why okay. I'm here today to help.
That's right. So with that, let's kind of level the playing field as best we can. And we're going to jump into some statistics and definitions just to kind of keep everybody moving along in the same knowledge level as best we can. So I'll start with just a couple of interesting statistics that I found as I was preparing for today. So as of January 1st, 2021, there were 14,000 Bitcoin ATMs globally, which blew my mind because I've never even seen one, let alone understand that there's 14,000 out in the world that people must be actively using. $281 million of crypto was stolen in 2020, and 80% has since been claimed and recovered. the Bitcoin community, talking a little bit about demographics, made up roughly 85% male, 14% female. I'm rounding, so I know that doesn't tally to 100. The demographic of crypto users is typically under age 45, defined as high income earners, and tech forward. So tech forward being the people who might camp out for the first next generation iPhone that's coming out. Sean, anything else that are hot topics or quick snippets on statistics for crypto you can give us?
Yeah, sure. So probably the other sort of two headline topics that you probably might have heard about, or if you haven't, are going to start to bubble up now, is that actually the biggest hack in crypto just happened during this past week. Now, in a interesting twist, over, I believe it was $600 million actually was stolen, but then within the next 48 hours, over half of it actually was returned. So it was almost like a white hat hacking, only on a very public basis. And then two, in terms of the adoption of crypto, right? The Bitcoin ATMs are the most obvious signs. They're in Hoboken, Jersey City, and there's actually one in Hackensack right now where I am. And so, it honestly really is becoming more of a mainstream conversation as opposed to just being headlines.
So just sort of a sideline on that first point that you raised, the ability to be able to recover lost crypto. Do you attribute that to I'll call it the electronic nature of it? I mean, why is that so much more easily recoverable than a physical asset that I can hold?
Sure. So in terms of actually being able to recover crypto, I know the top risks, right, that I hear from many entrepreneurs, business owners, is that one, I don't understand how to get crypto to work in my firm, which we are going to come to later. And then two, it's this whole risk of being hacked, like it's all just online money. But actually having the money be online is always going to make it easier to trace who has it. Every single transaction with any crypto, be it Bitcoin, other crypto, any of those, I think there are about 9,800 right now. Any of them are able to be traced point to point by anybody, and that's why oftentimes the Bitcoin hacks, the ransomware is always in the headlines, and then week after that, after it's actually gotten back, all of those headlines are on page 5, right? Because it's a lot easier. It's a lot easier for the FBI, DEA, any sort of law enforcement agencies to trace crypto because it's online, and every single time it moves, it's always going to leave a footprint, basically, where it's going.
Gotcha. Okay, great. So let's jump into some common definitions, and I know we have a slide to throw up there to kind of, again, level the playing field a little and bring everybody on the same page. And we don't normally do slides on office hours, but in this case, we thought it was prudent to have something to physically look at.
Yes.
So Sean, whenever you want to just kind of walk us through the difference between Bitcoin and blockchain and some common terms that we may not know for sure.
Yep, absolutely. So probably the best way to try to think about blockchain and crypto is that basically blockchain is the internet, right? All of us understand the internet and understand applications that operate on the internet: Facebook, Twitter, Netflix, TikTok. All of those are applications running on the internet, right? Exact same thing here. So basically, it's the internet, blockchain, crypto, and that's the best way to try to think about it. And obviously, there are a whole host of types of crypto, types of underlying blockchains, but any blockchain is going to be traceable, transparent, almost unable to be hacked. And I'll come back to that later. But at the core of it is this idea of having your information, be it transactions, be it payments, inventory data, artwork, is encrypted. And so that's the whole core of the blockchain idea, as opposed to any other IT system where that sort of data integrity is only added in at the very end. And so then Bitcoin is the original crypto. It's the one that all of us have heard about, decentralized crypto that runs on top of the Bitcoin blockchain. Now, it's also important to also point out that actually not every crypto is going to be the exact same thing. And since all of them are based on a underlying blockchain, it's important to also note that not every blockchain is the exact same thing either. So the common question that I hear quite a bit is, well, I don't want to have all of my transactional data, inventory data on this public network. Well, I mean, that's not really what enterprises are actually talking about. Normally, if they're talking about how to use blockchain for enterprise, right? Because the Bitcoin blockchain is out here, it's public, traceable, transparent, great. But for an enterprise, that's where really, I say back in 2018, 2019, this whole idea of a private, hybrid, enterprise level blockchain really sort of has come onto the forefront. And any enterprise, and I know that Forbes has their annual blockchain 50 listing of obviously 50 companies internationally that have integrated blockchain into their core operations. And every single firm on that list has revenues of over $1 billion. So there are companies that have sort of onboarded blockchain in every industry: ConAgra, Amazon, Microsoft, FedEx, UPS. Any industry that is possible to even talk about has onboarded blockchain, but it's a private blockchain. So it's a bit different in terms of who has access to that data. Hence the name private, right? And then in terms of cryptocurrency, so cryptocurrency and blockchain are kind of like this idea of big data, right? That I guess back around 2010 to 2015 was like the hot topic, right? Big data. Everyone talked about it. Nobody quite knew how to do it, or actually what big data was, right? And so if I'm talking about crypto, it's important to understand what type of crypto I'm actually talking about. Am I talking about the traditional, sort of decentralized crypto, which is basically Bitcoin at this point, Bitcoin and Ether, but it's almost always going to be Bitcoin. But there are also privately issued coins or tokens known as a stablecoin. And the whole idea here is that I'm trying to basically meet halfway between this idea of having that cryptographic encryption over my transactions, over that information, but to also try to sort of marry that with the functionality of, okay, fine. So if I issue this coin, SSS coin, and then I tether it on a one-to-one basis with the US dollar, now on paper, each coin is worth the equivalent of $1 US. Isn't quite that simple in actuality, but the whole idea is to try to use these things now as a medium of doing business, as opposed to just holding it as a asset class. And then just down here, more really as like an FYI type of thing, this whole idea of the central bank digital currency is an idea that honestly really has just sort of burst into the mainstream. I was hearing things about it back in 2019, but it honestly, I'd say during the back half of 2020 and then now in the current year 2021, it's a whole idea of, so here we have Bitcoin, right? Not issued by anybody, not controlled or governed by anybody over here. Here we get privately issued coins and tokens. We have Tether, Circle, and all the rest in there. Now, all the way over here is this idea of, okay, fine, but what if a government wants to issue their own cryptocurrency? And so that's coming, guaranteed. Now, it could come in 2022 or 2025 or 2035. I don't know when, and it's impossible to actually estimate when it's going to come, but that's absolutely coming. And so then that's going to be a whole other conversation, but also just a item to try to sort of keep your eyes on. And then NFTs, because it was in the headlines quite a bit. NFTs is this idea of, okay, fine, how do I try to protect my intellectual property? basically, right? Because the internet is great for, all kinds of things, but it's not good for actually protecting intellectual property, as all of us have seen, I'm sure. Deep fakes, memes making fun of people, all the rest. And so the idea of a NFT is to try to protect either the artwork, video clip, images, information, and to then ultimately be able to transfer those on a individual basis and to protect the value over that unique item. And so basically for our competition here, these sort of top two items are the ones that are here right now being used, and the other two here on the bottom are items that are here but aren't quite in the mainstream yet, but they are coming quite fast.
So let's unpack a few things there for my own clarity. Just
Sure
to
thing.
back up to where you were talking about the major companies over $1 billion who have all implemented blockchain, right? So they've not necessarily taken on Bitcoin, but they've implemented blockchain into their operations, right? So I wanted for the audience to distinguish between, just because they're using blockchain in their operations does not mean that they are engaging and exchanging in Bitcoin or crypto. Is that correct?
Yes, and probably the example that is the most tangible and is the most sort of real is that actually starting in 2018 and now even more so, IBM partnered with Walmart to basically build out a private blockchain at Walmart. And so now, and I believe they did have to push us back, obviously, but I think by the end of 2022, any company doing business with Walmart that has anything to do with any sort of fresh produce or fruit has to be on this enterprise blockchain. Basically, the whole point of it is to help both the suppliers and Walmart basically track food from point A, B, C, D, E, and F, basically from farm to shelf on a international basis. So yeah, absolutely, there are any number of applications of actual blockchain that are not connected to Bitcoin in any way.
Gotcha. Okay, great. So who does then, if you kind of have a couple of companies in your mind that we might be able to relate to, who does accept Bitcoin, right? Because clearly there's ATMs out there that I'm guessing you plug your password into and you get actual cash out of, right? So the ATMs, are they just a conversion of Bitcoin to cash for the most part?
Yeah, so how primarily they are used is you would basically go up to the ATM, and you would then basically either input cash or you would have a prepaid card, right? The BlockFi has them now, Compound has them, and there are basically now cards. And I do know that actually Bank of America is actually currently trying to get one out the door, where basically I can then have my BOA account linked on this card, and I can input it in there, and I can, in essence, load, 0.002 Bitcoin onto the card, right? So it's basically like any other ATM with just a bit more prep work up front in terms of having to sort of link the bank account to the actual crypto company. Now, in terms of actual firms that are actually taking crypto, I'd say the most obvious one is Starbucks, right? Starbucks, Kroger. There are any number of other companies that are taking it, but probably those are the two that are the most sort of mainstream. I know that actually it's become quite commonplace for higher end car firms to take payment in Bitcoin. And honestly, Amazon also does. And Overstock.com, which I shop on probably too often. Also, I mean, actually, they were actually one of the first companies to accept Bitcoin. So Overstock, Starbucks, you got Kroger's, you have Tesla, which is kind of taking Bitcoin, kind of isn't, but they are going to do so in the future. So, I mean, it's honestly quite easy if you just hop online and any industry, right? any industry, there are going to be companies that are currently taking Bitcoin. Absolutely. And
Gotcha.
other crypto also.
Right. I know I keep using Bitcoin and crypto interchangeably, but in reality, it's like tissue and Kleenex, right? For the most part,
yeah,
they're the same thing, but not one's a category of. So let's throw up another survey just again to see how far behind technology I am. Has anybody in the audience today ever paid for anything using cryptocurrency? Is the survey question when Karen can pop it up. There we go. So I would be a resounding no.
It's like nobody.
No one has.
All right, well then I have some I guess good news for all of you is that it's going to be a lot easier to actually be paying for things with Bitcoin and other crypto going forward, because now we have PayPal, Visa, MasterCard are all authorizing transactions. Now it's not always in Bitcoin, so you have to look at that first, but they're all authorizing transactions either in Bitcoin and others or other crypto assets. So it is going to be a lot easier. I'd say probably starting right around the time that we're all doing holiday shopping.
All right, so let's jump into what this means for small businesses, right? Because we all recognize Overstock, Starbucks. By the way, I'm still excited that I use the Starbucks app to pay. So I guess that makes me really antiquated in this space, but
we're all proud of you, Sarah.
Yeah, right? Give me something. So, when we talk about crypto, and Sean, I think you have said this before, that many business owners say they don't understand it, so therefore they're not going to either use it themselves as a consumer or take it into their business. So let's kind of bring it down to a small, medium-sized business and explain from a consumer side of it, how is crypto different than what you mentioned, Apple Pay, Venmo, PayPal? I mean, those are the things that I think are mainstream enough now that everybody in the audience should have had some experience, with those.
Sure. So as far as a consumer side, right, facing point of view, I can load an app on the phone, be it the Paxos app, Circle app, and there are a whole bunch of those apps out there to help you do it. So I won't talk on any one of those too much, but there are any number of those apps to help you basically transact. All that I have to do to transact in crypto, as opposed to using Apple Pay, Google Pay, Venmo, Zelle, Cash App, is basically have the app on the phone, right? So it isn't any different from a consumer on a Tuesday afternoon going in to buy a pizza, pay for some services, all the rest. So that has no difference. Where the underlying sort of difference comes in is on the back end, right? To all of you, as the merchant, as the entrepreneur, as the business owner, I have some work being done on the house. So if you do hear any background noises, that's all.
So it's your dog, not my dog.
Yeah, it is. Yeah. Yep. So in terms of the actual upsides, right? The true upsides are on the side of the business owner on the back end. Because anybody who's ever had to take and process any sort of credit card transaction knows, one, that it's costly, right? And two, it takes forever to actually finalize that transaction on the back end, right? It can take up to five working days to actually finally settle that transaction. And you're paying a fee between 2 to 4%, right? With a transaction happening in crypto, that fee goes from 3 to 4% to 0.02% on an average basis. Always going to vary depending on the coin, all the rest, but it's much, much cheaper to actually take payment in crypto for all of you. And then two, it's available instantaneously. I don't have to wait. I don't have to finalize any transaction. I have access to those funds instantaneously, right? Now, if any firms here have any customers overseas, or any customers even in Canada, right? Which isn't overseas, but it is a alternate country, right? Foreign country. In terms of international payments, that's that's even more upside, right? Because on top of it being cheaper, on top of being available instantaneously, now I don't have to wire ACH funds internationally. I actually had to help my parents wire some money overseas. I guess back within the last month or so, and it was only a invoice. I think it was a few $100s, right? But the actual fee, it was 10% of the invoice price. I had to actually go to a bank with them, which I haven't been inside a bank probably since I was 10, which was about 20 odd years ago, right? And and then three, it took 10 days for the other counterparty to have access to those funds. So internationally, huge upside. But even here on just an operational basis, it is cheaper and it's faster. Absolutely.
Great. Great. So, all right, where do we start, right? We're a small business and we're into this. We want to start accepting crypto. How do we do this? What does it mean? How do we build out a cryptocurrency payment strategy, for lack of a better term?
Yep. No, and honestly, I mean, the absolute first question that I always ask a entrepreneur, firm owner who is, entering into the space is, one, why, right? Why are you doing it? Is there an underlying business reason, or are you doing it to try to just bring in some new customers? Either one is totally fine. I just have to know, right? Because that in turn then essentially drives the rest of the whole conversation. So the absolute first thing to do is to try to figure out what type of actual crypto you are trying to actually take in. Is it going to be Bitcoin or Bitcoin plus, right? Because if it's Bitcoin only, BitPay is the easiest option out there. It's I think been around now since about 2014. BitPay, it's a easy to use app. Install it on your computer, and then that helps you handle a whole bunch of the back end stuff. But the absolute first question to ask, what type? And two, what is the plan to actually do with the crypto after it actually comes in? Everyone focuses on, okay, fine, how do I get the POS to work? And try to make it as easy for the customers as possible. Great. But after that, after I'm holding some Tether, some Paxos, some Ether, some Bitcoin, what do I do with it? One, and two, how am I holding it? Now, the how am I holding it is a whole part of how you actually have that sort of front end set up. And most firms that I do with hold their funds in this hot wallet idea. All right. Now, I won't bore you all too much, but a hot wallet is basically a online application where basically I say, okay, fine. So I have this sort of POS entry point for the crypto, and then sort of that POS crypto goes into my hot wallet. It's an online crypto holding account. Okay, straightforward stuff. Now, do I hold it in that hot wallet, or do I convert it back into US dollars? And so at the underlying baseline, right? Any sort of crypto payment strategy has to have one, that sort of front end POS choice. Two, you do have to decide, are you going to hold it in a hot wallet, which is what most firms do at first, or are you going to hold on to this for a long time, in which I would say probably a cold wallet is best. And all that a cold wallet is basically it's a hard drive, flash drive type thing, USB stick, right? Basically type thing that is customized to hold crypto. Okay, so one, have your POS, have your hot wallet, cold wallet choice made. Then, okay, great. After that, am I gonna hold on to it forever? Or like most firms actually do I just have the Bitcoin come in, say, great, awesome, thank you so much, and then instantly convert it back into US dollars? So all three choices are probably the first three underlying steps that any firm has to sort of work through, talk about, and it's not any harder than trying to set up any other POS system. all that I'm doing now is I'm just adding in on top a extra layer linked to Bitcoin or the other crypto assets.
So because this is what we do here at SKC, talk to me about what this means on an accounting, from an accounting standpoint. I know when we were preparing for today, you said that there are software partners from a GL standpoint that will integrate with the hot wallets and the apps and things like that. So how are we tracking these transactions for the operating cycle through the accounting software?
Sure. So yes, there are absolutely partners out there. We have Luca, Veride, Coin Tracker, Trust Swap, Gilded. Now I'm on the board of that last from Gilded. So I'm a bit sort of tilted on that point. But there are any number of firms out there whose entire job is to help you walk through those exact questions, right? How to process transactions, how to then get those transactions to show up correctly in your QuickBooks, or any other accounting software you have, because a item that often sort of can be a surprise, right, is that all of us are sort of used to having transactions 825, 1875 with those two sort of decimal points, right? But in Bitcoin transactions, it can go all the way out to 10. And so how is your current bookkeeping system, accounting system going to work with that? Answer is it probably isn't. And so that's where really I was sort of put forward to always work with a firm whose whole niche is in this area. And there are products and services at every single price point for any firm, because most of these firms are actually relatively new on their own. And so really, so that's an important point to be able to try to figure out how it's going to work from a entry point of view, right? Because I've seen far too many cases where there are owners who are like, okay, fine, I have the BitPay, have the hot wallet, I'm going to hold the Bitcoin there, so I'm good, right? I say, well, you're half good, right? Where is that Bitcoin? In the hot wallet. No. Where is it? Is it on your income statement anywhere? Is it on your balance sheet? How do you get that to interoperate correctly, right, with your current in-house accounting software? And so that's really where, so the first overall step, build out your own strategy. Part two, and I'm always a huge fan of this, talk to the experts in this space, right? All of us are very bright people, but there is no person who knows everything. But there is no one person who knows everything. So that's why it's critical to talk to the experts in this space and to try to work with them to find the solution that ultimately is going to basically help you complete this whole loop, right? So we have the POS, we have the hot wallet, and the hot wallet is going to be at a platform, Coinbase probably here in the US. So we have points 1, 2, 3. POS, okay, have the Bitcoin. It's in the hot wallet. Hot wallet's at Coinbase so that I can hold it there, or I can then convert it back to US dollars. But then how do I get this back into the firm to have it be actually shown correctly? That's where experts really can help you, either from a bookkeeping side, tax side, or a sort of IT side, to how to get those softwares to interoperate on their own.
Right. And just a couple more questions on actually implementing this, and then we're going to jump to some risks and traceability. And of course, it wouldn't be right if SKC didn't talk about taxes, so we will touch on that. But Karen, go ahead. Was there a question?
Yeah, there's 2 questions that came in. So does Form 8300 come into play with transactions over $10,000? Is that something you'll touch on later, or?
So I am not a tax person myself, but what I can say, and I have talked to a lot of tax focused people, is that when it comes to anything to do with any sort of crypto transactions, especially if they're over a sort of threshold, right, 2,500, 10,000, it's always in your interest to be as transparent as you possibly can, right? One, because it's always good to be transparent, and two, the IRS has come out now on multiple times and actually said that trying to increase crypto compliance is a top priority going forward. And they've actually, in the summer of 2019, and I think in the fall of 2020, actually were directly contacting taxpayers directly. So anytime there's any question on any sort of crypto tax, I am always a advocate of being as transparent and as upfront as you can be.
Okay, second question came in. Who sets up the POS?
Sure. So in terms of who sets up the POS, it would be like you're trying to set up a new firm anyway, right? How do you want to get paid, right? PayPal, Venmo, BitPay, Gilded. So it would be basically you and the payment portal company that you want to work with. So it isn't any different in that sense, as opposed to trying to set up a option to get paid on your new website. Same process.
Understood. So Sean, timeline, right? I decide after this wonderful office hours that SKC is going to start accepting crypto. Okay. You laid out what we need to do.
I can only hope, Sarah.
You laid out what we need to do. What is the timeline from, okay, I've made a decision to, yes, we're going to pull the trigger, typically?
Typically, and it depends on how much budget and how much time you want to allocate to this project. But assuming that you're on top of things, which you are, I would say that really between the outreach, demo, consultation, and it really does vary from firm to firm. I'd put a ballpark. You could have it if you wanted to start as a Monday, August 16th. You could probably have it up and running on a conservative basis by Halloween.
Okay, that's impressive. That's impressive.
Now, obviously, if there are folks that are more crypto native, crypto familiar at your company, or have more interest, have more time in it, then it can be done. I've seen it done in as quickly as 2 weeks. So.
Wow. Okay. Now, is there an industry or a size of an organization that you would recommend makes more sense to take crypto before others, maybe?
I would say really that, there isn't really sort of a benchmark. I know I'm actually colleagues with a individual who's a co-founder of an art startup down in Hudson County. His firm just opened their doors, and they one of the first things they basically upgraded was to add the optionality to get paid in crypto. So I've seen companies that have revenues of, let's say, between $500,000 and 1.5 million do it, and I've seen individual entrepreneurs who earn maybe top line 100 grand annually also have that option. So it's not really a sort of fine line, one, because there are options at every single price point, and two, because it really hones into also what type of customer base are you trying to, one, bring in, or two, expand on. So there is no real sort of benchmark that I've seen personally. I'm sure there are some benchmarks that are online somewhere, but as far as sort of hands-on consultations working with firms, it's really all over the place.
Gotcha. Okay. Karen, any questions before we jump into the next topic?
Yes. A couple questions for you. So, Sean, do you need a different hot wallet for each different type of cryptocurrency?
Nope. Absolutely not. No. So just in the interest of being transparent, I have a hot wallet, and I have in there right now 12 different crypto. So.
Okay. Great. And second question, given the volatility of crypto and the illegal activity that crypto encourages, what is the incentive for any company to embrace crypto?
Okay, so I won't call you out because it's Friday morning. right? But in terms of the illegal activity with crypto, so the most commonly used currency for any illegal activity, terrorism, extortion, any criminal activity isn't crypto, US dollar. Okay, so off the top, Greg. All right, Greg, how we doing, man? Excellent question. And you know what? I love having questions of this kind, right? Because there are still, individuals out there, usually at upper levels of agencies, right, that have this opinion that crypto is only used for criminals. Anything can be used for any criminal activity. And as we have found out, and you talked about earlier, if you have a actual ransom paid in crypto, it's incredibly easy to actually trace who has it, right? And probably the most obvious example is that Colonial Pipeline hack that just happened back in June, right? The FBI was able to actually get back all of it within, I think, 48 hours of that actual hack. So it being used for criminal activity, ask anybody in any law enforcement IT branch who can talk to you, right? Obviously, they love crime being done in Bitcoin or in other altcoins, right? Other sort of crypto assets, because it's incredibly easy to trace where those individual transactions go, both on a hot wallet basis and on an IP basis, right? Right, because every computer, each phone, each tablet has its own IP, and I can trace those to every single point on that chain. So it really, it's a cool sort of narrative, right? Ooh, it's only used for crime. That's not entirely true, though. And again, the most commonly used currency for any crime anywhere in the world, US dollar. And then two, is it price volatility? Absolutely, right? And I know that our conversation here today is not on sort of trading crypto, but and that really highlights the importance of upfront, what type of crypto are you going to accept, right? Is it going to be Bitcoin, or is it going to be some privately issued coin or token? And Greg's on camera.
All right. Boy, Greg.
I'm ready to go with this for sure. Number one, when I talk about volatility, I'm talking about the idea that you as a company, you take, however many Bitcoins or Ethereums or Dogecoins or whatever other coins are out there in currency, and then it might go up 30% or it might be down 30% in 24 or 48 hours. How as a company are you going to accept that type of risk, whether it's good or bad, for your bottom line? I have a huge problem as a person in finance working for a company, thinking that if I have a huge scope of money and they want to pay me in Bitcoin, 24, 48 hours from now, it might be worth substantially less than what, I was hoping for. And how am I going to now pay my employees based on that? That's the real question. We can get into the illegal activity on another point, because I can go at this for hours for sure. But that's my main concern as a person in finance, as a CFO. How am I going to be able to pay my employees if I'm getting paid in crypto and 48 hours from now it's worth 30 or 40% less than what I accepted?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so probably off the top one, right? There is no obligation here, right, to actually take payments in crypto. You're under no obligation to actually do so. Two, right, most of the firms that are doing transactions in any kind of bulk way, right, in crypto, be it a private firm, be it the city of Miami, be it the state of Wyoming, aren't doing them in Bitcoin, right? They're doing them in those privately issued coins that I was talking about earlier that are tethered on a one-to-one basis at the US dollar. So actually, speaking of which, Tether has a average daily transactional volume that I think is easily now in excess of $1 billion. So actually the bulk of transactions happen, right? Because it's always important to sort of bifurcate here. Bitcoin is the example, right? Everyone goes to, right? It goes up by 30%, down by 40%. But in actuality, the bulk of transactions happening in crypto are not taking place in Bitcoin. Actually, and I just saw this stat yesterday on an article, I think from Bloomberg, so it's probably true, that the average purchase size of Bitcoin, right, on a per transaction basis, buying Bitcoin, is over $1 million for the first time since 2017. So folks aren't transacting in actual Bitcoin, Greg. They're buying it and they're holding it, whereas the transactions are happening in DAI, Paxos, Tether, USD coin, Circle USD, all of those other coins, that have this sort of price hook in them.
And Sean, you mentioned earlier too that as part of a strategy, you could make the decision that once you get paid in the crypto, you're going to convert it to dollars right away. You may not choose to hold it and be subject to that volatility. So I do want to cover two more topics before we have to wrap up this morning, and that is, of course, taxes and, of course, traceability. So let's hit real quick on what is actually a triggering event for Bitcoin or crypto to be subject to tax.
Everything. Anytime that there's any transaction with any crypto asset, right, be it Bitcoin or any of the other 10,000 crypto out there, or an NFT, anything. Anytime that there's a transfer, that there's a transaction, that there's a conversion back into fiat or into any other crypto asset out there, right, that's going to be an income tax event. The only transaction with any sort of crypto connection, wait, hold on. The only transaction with any crypto connection that is not going to create a tax obligation is the purchase of any crypto. So if I buy crypto, any of them, so I have US dollars and I buy X coin, I buy Ether, I'm fine. Anything else, I'm going to owe income taxes on it, or at the very least have to file on it.
Okay, so people want to know, how will the IRS know about this? Are they sending me a 1099? I mean, I know that there's a relatively new checkbox on people's 1040. Did you transact in any way in crypto? That's on the honor system, but people want to know really, what is the IRS's capability or the government's capability in tracking these transactions and holding me accountable for the tax related to them?
Sure. So if you had asked me that back in 2017, 2018, I would say pretty average at best. Now in 2021, the IRS is actually quite good. They've actually partnered with, I actually know for a fact that they've hired 2 crypto tax firms to come to the IRS, or to come in-house, to help them to build out their own blockchain explorer tools, basically tools to help the IRS now directly access individual blockchains to track transactions. So if you are doing transactions in crypto, the IRS, I would say they are going to find out about it. And if you get away with it once or twice, awesome for you, but they are going to find out about it because it is a priority for them, and they have done quite a bit of work. I'd say since probably the end of 2017, they've really been sort of bulking up their internal staff, their IT tools, and partnering directly with firms operating in that space, on top of actually directly basically suing for information from Coinbase, Kraken, Circle directly, and actually getting it. So if you are doing transactions, the IRS is going to find out about it.
So we are not implementing crypto in an attempt to fly under the radar.
No, that would be the worst possible option.
Okay, so let's talk a little bit about the recent legislation. I know that you are painfully and intimately aware of and versed on. Any key items in there related to crypto? I know there's a lot of things in that new bill, but one of the areas that's covered is crypto. So can you share with our audience a little bit about the impact there?
Sure. So the main takeaway here is that as per the current language in this bill, which is 2,700 pages long, And the component of crypto, I think, is about 2 pages. So it really goes to show how important it can be. So the issue here is that now, as of right now, right, any individual, and it doesn't really have to do with firms that are taking crypto payments, but it is going to impact overall how many people are open to actually doing it, right? So basically now, any firm that's involved in processing, approving, validating crypto transactions, and gets paid for it, basically for consideration. So if I'm processing transaction as a financial institution, right, that I process transactions now in certain crypto assets, which I can totally do. OCC said so back in 2020, and then in the first quarter of 21. So I'm a financial institution, payment processor, any firm, and I'm processing transactions taking place in crypto. Now I have the exact same compliance tax obligations as a company like a Coinbase whose whole business is the buying, selling, trading, holding of crypto. So in terms of the impact on a firm actually taking crypto payments, not too much direct impact. But in terms of the attitude and the outlook for customers and other firms wanting to pay you in crypto, that is going to have an impact on it. And there's a lot of controversy that has been going on about it. And I've probably learned more in the last 12 days on how actual laws become laws than I had in the last 33 years. So it's been a painful process. But ultimately, right, for our conversation here, not too much direct impact, but it goes to show you just how much pressure is currently being brought to bear on this industry to help with the tax, help with the compliance, and to help with the transparency of it. So there is going to be pain, right? Obviously, but ultimately it is going to help the whole sector become more transparent and understandable, because if the folks down in Washington can understand it, then all of us can too.
Right. So essentially, several years ago, the law came that any merchant services or credit cards had to issue 1099s for payments, recipients that received over a certain amount. We're basically there with crypto too. So people will be getting 1099s, another you are on the grid, you are not flying under the radar situation that, you can't. One thing I do know about crypto is you can't shove it under the mattress. So there will be, reporting, and there will be compliance that will make you have to report that in kind of summation.
Absolutely right.
So Sean, we're close to wrapping up this hour together. We did, at least from my perspective, and I hope for the audiences as well, chip away at the giant rock that's, to me, cryptocurrency, and trying to understand all of it. Any last comments that you want to share? Any risks or opportunities we may not have covered that the audience should know as business owners?
Sure. So probably the only other items, and I'm just thinking here to the top of my head here, probably the one big opportunity that we didn't directly touch on actually is that first stat that you mentioned on who are the individuals that are trying to use cryptocurrency, right? They do happen to be that under 45 age bracket, more affluent, and sort of more tech forward. So, and every firm out there wants customers in that sort of bubble, right? Affluent, younger, higher income levels, right? That's what everybody wants at their business. So it does pay to, at the very least, have the conversation, take a look, and it's obviously not right for every firm in every industry or for every role, right? So if I was a corporate treasurer, I would say absolutely not, no way. But if I'm a firm owner, that's a whole alternate outlook. And then two, probably the big risk that we have not touched on yet is Amos. Yes, absolutely. Is that it's critical to make sure that if you are going to start taking payments in crypto, that your current insurance has a clause for that, right? Because if there's an issue, if there's a hack, if there's a breach on your hot wallet crypto system or other places now at your firm, you have to make sure, again, as part of that planning process, right, that risk assessment process, that you have coverage now, for any sort of crypto operations. So probably the opportunity is to grow that customer base because, and I'm sure anybody who's in the wealth management side knows that there's this huge wealth transfer that is going to be going on underway. I'm not getting too much of it personally, but there is this huge wealth transfer, $21 trillion, right? Like coming from the boomers to folks in that 40, 30-ish age bracket. And actually, and it's also, those are the exact individuals who are most apt to use crypto. But there's also this whole risk about, from a operational side, how do you make sure that as you're doing it, you are covered? So I would say that in terms of risk and opportunities, but those are the two ones that we have not yet touched on directly.
Great. And one final question from the audience: suggestions for next step resources.
Yeah. So, and I will drop this in the chat actually, because there are quite a few. I would say that the Wall Street Blockchain Alliance is a great organization. In full disclosure, I am on their board and I chair their accounting working group. The AICPA has some great stuff out there, but if you are more interested in trying to keep like just up to date on these trends, there are some great sites out there, coindesk.com. And if you want to get a bit more sort of crypto focused instead of crypto nuanced, Cointelegraph is a great place to go for that. AICPA though has some great resources overall from a risk, from a SOC point of view also. But yeah, CoinDesk, Cointelegraph, and actually Forbes has their own crypto area, crypto and blockchain, and Bloomberg has a crypto has a crypto vertical as well.
That's a lot of weekend reading, Sean.
Absolutely.
Well, I can't thank you enough for being here and like I said, chipping away at what was sort of a beast that I didn't really understand. I hope there was some clarity to our audience. I feel like we could do a part 2 of this because there's just so much out there about it. But I do want to thank you again so much for joining us. Thank you to our audience for joining us on this steamy Friday morning. Please let Karen know if there's any future topics that you want to hear for the next office hours. And I wish everybody a safe, happy, and healthy weekend, and we will see you next time. Thank you so much.